What's up everyone, Peter here from All Jiu-Jitsu. Hope you guys are staying safe and healthy during this lockdown. Today we've got 5 things that I personally wish I knew before I opened my BJJ Academy back in 2016 when I was just a purple belt. So these are just my personal experiences and hopefully they'll be useful to some of you. So let's get going right away. Number 1, pricing structure and changes over time. This is the first mistake I made as a new academy owner back in 2016 by setting up the price way too low. Being just a purple belt, I thought I couldn't be charging the same amount of money or similar type of fees that academies with black belt instructors would charge. And the only reason this mistake didn't result in a complete failure is because I didn't rely on the academy as my income source at the time. This point has nothing really to do with ego or perception of your value, but it's more about the end game. As a small academy, if you do things right, you're going to reach your full physical capacity or near full capacity a lot faster than you can imagine. So if you set your price too low, you risk facing a massive issue when that moment arrives. And the funny thing is, the lower your price, the sooner that moment will arrive. So imagine now your classes are completely full, you can hardly accept any more members, but you're still not generating enough revenue to cover your rent, your expenses, your insurance, your salaries, plus some savings for further development of your academy. Now you have 2 options. Number 1 is increase the fees to your current members. And number 2 is move to larger premises. Number 2 may or may not be the option. Are there available premises? Do you have enough resources to execute the move? And even if you do, will you move again when the problem inevitably comes back? Increasing the fees doesn't seem like a big deal, but I guarantee it will leave a little bit of bitterness in your community. No matter how rational your explanation for the increase is, anything beyond 10% is a really hard sell. And the funny thing here is that the monetary value in absolute terms in this case is pretty much irrelevant. For instance, it is much easier to increase the fees from $200, euro, pounds, whatever it is, to $220 than from 70 to 90, because what really matters is the percentage of that incremental change. So you really need to keep this in mind when you're setting up your initial membership fees. You need to understand your capacity, you need to understand what kind of revenue you need to generate to make sure that you're covering your bases. Your rent, your expenses, your salaries for your instructors, whether it's just yourself or some additional instructors, your taxes, and some savings as well. Number 2, not everybody will like your academy, and that's absolutely fine. As a new business, you always do your best to make sure that your academy, your business, is as attractive as possible to the prospective clients. So your dream is probably for anybody who walks in and does a trial class is to stay with you forever and be a regular student. But like with any other product or service, it is simply not possible to be perfect for everyone. Each BJJ Academy, each instructor has their own way of doing things, and it's absolutely fine if somebody decides that your way of doing things is not for them. Don't let this hurt your ego too much, because I guarantee that somebody else will show up at your door and become a regular student who previously tried a class or maybe trained for a while in a different place and decided that place was not for them and your place suits them much better. And chances are that if you have opened your own place or planning on opening your own place, is that you probably think that the existing places in your area are not suitable to you for one reason or another. In the beginning, I definitely stressed a little bit too much over it, and as I said, it's probably not worth that amount of stress. However, don't let this thought make you complacent and not putting your best effort in improving and making sure that your academy is getting better every day, every month, every year. Plus, certain baseline standards, especially when it comes to hygiene, the customer care, the customer service, have to be top-notch regardless of what kind of vibe you have in your academy. Number 3, cash is not king. You might think that taking cash payments is a good idea, especially when you're only starting out and you're small. After all, cash is very straightforward, it's very quick exchange, no processing fees, so it might be quite an attractive way of doing things in the very beginning. But you will soon realize that chasing monthly fees is a hassle. Carrying physical cash and bank notes is a hassle. Trying to reinvest your cash proceeds into your business growth is also a hassle. And understanding your monthly business metrics is almost impossible. So my suggestion to you is get a membership management system with automatic payments set up in place as soon as possible. You won't regret it. And drop a comment below if you would like to know more about various systems. I'll be happy to provide an overview. Number 4, only trust what's written in the contract. We always like to think that people will act in goodwill, they'll always be honest with you, and in fairness, most people are honest and most people act with integrity. However, when it comes to minimizing your exposure to business risks, you can only trust something that's been signed in a form of a contract. In my personal case, when we signed a lease for our second second unit for our gym, the landlord for whatever reason told me that they couldn't give me more than 1 year at a time, but that it would be rolling every year, so we shouldn't worry, and they intend to have us there for a few years if we are a good tenant. So despite us being a very good tenant, after a year and a half in that unit, the landlord handed us a 1 month notice to vacate the premises. It was like a punch in the face because a week prior to that I quit my job to run BJJ Academy full time. Long story short, they were trying to squeeze more money out of us, and this definitely wasn't the right way of going about it. So we packed up our mats, moved to a new location and never looked back. But the lesson was learned, so if a contract says 1 year, that's as much as you can expect from it, and plan your actions accordingly. And finally, number 5, always have a buffer. Things happen and they will. Whether it's a problem with the lease, whether it's a global pandemic, or some other force majeure, something that you didn't expect will come up, and you will need a safety net to relocate, to stop your operations for a few weeks or even months, or maybe to pay for damages caused by your unit's plumbing issues. So it's not enough just to be covering your rent, your expenses, your salary. You must build a cash reserve as soon as possible. A good rule of thumb based on the current situation would be 3 to 6 months of your monthly expenses. It may seem like a lot to start with, but one step at a time you will be able to build it up, and once you do, trust me, you will sleep a lot better.